This is Hidden History, celebrating Hispanic heritage in America.
Hello, and thank you for joining us as 6 News takes an in-depth look into America's Hispanic heritage and how this culture found its way to Michigan. I'm Jorma Duran. We're right in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month, and tonight we'll explore the history of this important culture and its current influences that are still taking shape right here in America. We'll also learn about influential people, groups, and movements that created our rich Hispanic American culture, and we start right here at home. Mid-Michigan may not be the first area that comes to mind when talking about the Hispanic culture, but as I found out, not only did Latino and Hispanic roots get planted here long ago, they've been impacting our area for generations.
It's a collection of materials that were archived.
MSU librarian for Chicano Latino Studies, Diana Rivera, displays an array of Hispanic history directly connected to Mid-Michigan. It's packed with pictures and details of the pioneer families who became the roots of Hispanic culture in the greater Lansing area back in the 1940s and 50s. These first families of the Latino community, mostly from Mexico and Texas, came to work and found it in the fields. Many were then persuaded to settle permanently in Michigan due to the prospect of higher pay and less discrimination.
They found that it was a different feel and vibe for what they came from. I know that was true for my family.
Soon after, area Latinos began working not only in agriculture, but in other booming state industries like railroads and manufacturing, growth Lorenzo Lopez knows very well.
I'm a Mexicano. That's what I am. I'm an American and Mexican ancestry, born and raised in Michigan.
His mother, Eldamira Lopez, became a very political, cultural, and social figure in mid-Michigan. She started the Cristo Rey Church to satisfy social needs. Then in 1973, she became the first Latina on the City of Lansing Housing Commission and served on the commission for 25 years, 16 as chairperson, that provided needed assistance to Hispanics then and help that still exists today.
She was able to create policy regarding our community in terms of housing, unemployment, health, education.
The Hispanic population in mid-Michigan remains small. In fact, is still less than 8%, but has grown and spread to the point of clear progress.
The community has grown to the point that they sort of know of each other, but they don't really know them intimately, like in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, where, you just stood out.
Growth isn't just with the numbers either. Now, local Hispanics are immediately associated with field laborers and are leading the way in many areas of work.
What's happening is the transformation of our community from the agricultural area, from the factory area, my father was, to the colleges, to the universities, to the leadership, to the doctors, to the lawyers. That's the transformation of our community, and that's where our community is headed.
And to help symbolize this success, Lopez helped lead the way to highlight the importance of this roadway in the Hispanic community, now officially known as Cesar Chavez Avenue. It was a strip of street pioneer family-led businesses were lined up and firmly planting Hispanic roots in the heart of Michigan, Lopez says, helped make this state so great.
To make sure that our history as Americans is reflected in our city.
The Hispanic culture in Michigan is about 100 years old, and leaders I spoke with tell me they're happy with the growth and achievement so far, but especially now, there's a sense of urgency to keep striving for equality and to be a voice our state respects and trusts. So there's a look at how the Hispanic culture started here in mid-Michigan, but as you'll learn throughout our show, the Hispanic culture here and across America has faced many challenges, especially when it comes to equality. After the break, we'll take you back in time to an equality march here in Lansing that inspired a man to help make a change. Hear why he says doing it through education was the only way he knew how. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. I'm Sherry Jones.
And I'm Lauren Thompson. We're here for you as 6 News continues our in-depth look at Hispanic culture here in mid-Michigan and across the country.
Now, we just gave you a preview of the Hispanic culture here in Michigan, but as we said at the start and even today, members of the community were forced to fight for equality, especially those working in the farming industry.
And that's where we meet the best-known Latino civil rights activist in our history, Cesar Chavez, who dedicated his life to fighting for equality and for Hispanic farm workers.
His mission even made several stops right here in Lansing. So take a listen to what he said back in 1990 about the racial barrier preventing equality here in America.
Well, you know, things change. They never change as fast as we want them to change. We still have a lot of problems, but they change gradually. And you know, we're still besieged with the problems of employment and equal opportunities. The issue of education is very, very dear to us. That goes slow, and we have to work harder at that. Tenemos nosotros en esa sociedad un cáncer. El cáncer es el cáncer del racismo. No somos la única nación del mundo que tenemos eso. Si no hay racismo, hay clasismo, pero en este caso aquí hay racismo y es difícil tratar con él. Yo no sé cuál la solución es, solo que lo que sé es de que vienen olas, de repente parece que se desvanece y luego después vuelve a crecer. We've got to go out and work in the community to be able to bring about change. Without that, we can't do it. And so the call is, let's unite, let's work in the community so we can get some change.
And as we've mentioned earlier in our broadcast, in honor of Chavez's work back in October of 2017, the Lansing City Council voted to rename a portion of Grand River to Cesar E. Chavez Avenue.
As Chavez just said, creating equality isn't easy, and it's been a decades-long mission for many in our local Hispanic community.
6 News reporter Dana White is here for you now to tell us about a longtime Lansing educator who's working to connect his community with the right tools.
Sherry and Lauren, Nino Rodriguez moved to Lansing in 1971, and it wasn't long after he became deeply empowered by working to provide an equal voice for local Hispanic students. Now he's not only a board member for the Lansing School District, but he's also a magazine publisher, always working to keep his community aware and informed.
For the past 14 years,
we made 4,000 copies.
Nino Rodriguez has published Adelante Forward, a bilingual and multicultural magazine focusing on the health, education, and well-being of local communities from a Hispanic point of view.
I try to promote, the best I can, some of the characteristics of the Latino community. That way we don't lose and somebody else can gain.
But Rodriguez's push to promote Hispanic education and equality in the greater Lansing area goes deeper than just print. It started back in the 1970s after Mexican-American students at Pattongill marched in protest and voiced concerns over getting poorly treated at school based on their race.
And thanks to that march, we created the Latino Advisory Committee to the Board of Education. And then the school board at that time dearly discovered ways to promote more Latino teachers and principals, because these students at that time, there were many, need to see people like them.
An important step for the local Hispanic community, and now in its 47th year, it serves as a resource for Latino parents and students. And the work the Latino Advisory Committee is doing is making a major difference.
Since that time, more Latino are graduating now. They are more, they have more facilities than these people in 1971 and before.
In fact, Rodriguez is living proof of the progress because he's not just a publisher. The former teacher and principal is also a current Lansing School Board member who helped lead the way for our local Hispanic culture for decades.
So many heroes are Latinos in this community, in this country, that we should be very proud of this heritage that we are celebrating from September 15 to October 15.
The latest Adelante Forward is now available at more than 500 local locations. Sherry and Lauren, back to you.
All right, Dana, thank you. Well, we're switching gears now on our exploration into Hispanic heritage to something I think many of us are fans of: food.
But as we'll soon tell you, while many of us are familiar with traditional Mexican cuisine, that's just the first course in this culture full of unique dishes.
Welcome back. We continue our dive into Hispanic culture, moving from history and influential people to a different aspect of culture, food. I'm joined by Melissa Brennan, who tells us how Hispanic food means a lot more than hitting the Taco Bell down the street.
Yeah, that's right, Jorma. From Mexico to Central and South America and through the Caribbean, we celebrate different cultures and traditions. And while here in the U.S., we are most familiar with Mexican food and Mexican cuisine, but that alone does not define all of our Hispanic countries. Amber Frias is here for you now with a look at what's cooking.
United by one language, individual customs, traditions, ethnic dialect, and especially food bring out the unique charm of each country. Like most Latin American menus, Salvadorian dishes are centered around corn. One of the country's most notable dishes is the pupusa, a corn tortilla stuffed with beans, cheese, and pork. Let's explore Cuba.
A lot of spices, a lot of garlic, like a combination of African America, like Latin America.
A Cuban restaurant staple, ropa vieja, stewed beef shredded pulled with vegetables. It is one of Cuba's national dishes. Mexican food, you have the basics, tacos, tortilla chips, and burritos. But it's important to know each region cooks up its own flavors.
If you go to the south, say Yucatan, Mérida, the achiote for sure. It's heavy in the achiote, many other heavy spices on those states. If you go to the coast, we speak about salt and lemon because the seafood, we do a lot of ceviche. If we could talk to the north, I would say heavy sauce with spice and a lot of meats. But if we talk to the center of Mexico, which is Mexico City, where I come from, it becomes a very delicate cuisine.
Standard Mexican foods tend to deliver some heat, which makes it unique among Hispanic cuisine.
You cannot think about Mexican food without spices, without chiles, without salsas.
Culinary classics from different cultures vary from country to country, community to community. Enough special flavors to enjoy an extraordinary feast during Hispanic Heritage Month.
Now that,
looks good.
Very good. Now, if that inspired you to try something new, there are a couple authentic Hispanic restaurants in the local area.
Coming up, a Hispanic festival that is epic every year, right after the break.
Welcome back, I'm Kyra Lake.
And I'm Kiara Hay. We're here for you as 6 News continues our in-depth look into Hispanic culture. This time of year, during Hispanic Heritage Month, communities across Michigan come together to celebrate and share their Hispanic culture.
In West Michigan, there are 2 festivals in Grand Rapids that do just that. Take a look.
From the Fiesta Mexicana to the Hispanic Festival, West Michigan is proud to celebrate its diverse cultures.
My name is Gabriela de la Vega. I'm the chair for the Mexican Festival, and this weekend is happening the Fiesta Mexicana. Today we have the celebration of independence. I was very lucky because back in 1998 I got the opportunity to be a part of the Comité Patriótico Mexicano. That was actually the original committee for the Fiesta Mexicana, and today we're going to honor the founders of this Fiesta Mexicana, and I'm pretty sure all these generations are so proud of what they did in the past.
I'm Margaret Vega. My father is Francisco Vega, and I know about this festival from when I was very young. It started in 1969, which was a turbulent time and context for our country. And I believe my father, along with Molly Blakesley, felt this was a way to celebrate diversity and to bring food and culture and music mainstream. And in 1969, that was a very revolutionary idea, of course. And I think although this festival has evolved over time, as it should, and different voices have come forward, it still is about the same thing, and that is celebrating each other and being educated on what each part of the world, in this case Spanish-speaking part of the world, has as part of their culture.
So at Noris Boricua Torres, I am the Executive Director of the Hispanic Center of Western Michigan, and what we do is we try to educate, advocate, and empower the Latino community of Western Michigan. So the Hispanic Festival is a historical festival here in the city of Grand Rapids and for Western Michigan as a whole. We're going to celebrate our culture, we're going to celebrate our foods, we're going to celebrate our music. We're really going to try to exemplify what Latino-ness is from a real cultural perspective. Everything from the Caribbean, South America, Central America, North America, realizing that the western part of the U.S. at one point was Latino. So from the Mississippi to the Pacific Ocean and down to Chile at its lowest point, everything in between, we try to celebrate all of that by speaking our language, by enjoying of each other's company, really focusing on family and having children here, having grandparents here, really reflecting what the family is and what the culture does. Everything that America holds up as that northern star is what we do as a Latino community.
All right, looks like some fun. Well, still ahead tonight, you might celebrate Cinco de Mayo, but do you know why and what it stands for besides the 5th of May? We'll tell you in just a few minutes.
Welcome back to Hidden History, celebrating Hispanic heritage. Finally tonight, we're clearing up the misconceptions surrounding Cinco de Mayo and 16 de Septiembre. Here's Monica Cortez.
Do you know the difference between Cinco de Mayo and the 16th of September?
I do not.
Do you celebrate Cinco de Mayo first off?
Not really, but I know what it is, yeah.
Oh, perfect. What is it?
The 5th of May. Isn't it like Mexican independence?
What's the difference between Cinco de Mayo and 16 de Septiembre?
Cinco de Mayo is the battle in Puebla, I'm mistaken, where the French invaded Mexico, and 16th of September is our Independence Day.
Okay, Cinco de Mayo is the Batalla de Puebla, and then 16 is Mexico's independence.
El 16 de Septiembre is celebrated by Mexicans as the day the revolution against Spanish rule began in 1810.
The Gritos celebrate September 16th when the priest in Dolores, Mexico rang the bell in order to signal the cry to arms for the fight for independence.
That priest was Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla, a leader in Mexico's war for liberty.
So it was their beginning of their independence. We wrote a declaration, they rang a bell, and in the end it was the same result.
Even though the revolution started in 1810, it would turn to a war that would last more than 10 years.
Some of the events from Mexico at times have spilled over into El Paso, and it helps to remind that not only do we have this American heritage, but we're lucky to have a Mexican heritage as well.
El Grito is often confused with another historic date in Mexico's history, Cinco de Mayo, which is heavily celebrated in the U.S.
They both had to do with winning wars. The Cinco de Mayo was celebrating the winning of the Battle of Puebla, and that was when France and Austria were trying to come and take over Mexico. And even though the French didn't leave for a little while, that battle was kind of the turning point, and so Cinco de Mayo celebrates that victory.
But it doesn't seem to bother some El Pasoans.
I just think that people need to be more educated before celebrating something, but I don't think it really affects us, so I don't know, you can party whenever you want.
A reminder of how two countries are intertwined by more than just geography.
And I think it's also important for our students to understand that everything that we are and everything that we do today is a blend and does come from the past. And so if you understand both sides of it, then it makes you, I think, a better citizen.
That wraps up our 6 News presentation celebrating Hispanic heritage. Tonight, you heard stories of Hispanic history and even took a look at important cultural traditions with foods, festivals, and music, all of which helped shape the rich Hispanic American culture that we know today, both here in Michigan and across our country.
Hidden History, celebrating Hispanic heritage in America, has been an exclusive presentation of 6 News.